We now have our reading, and it's taken from Exodus chapter 10, verses 21 to 29. Exodus chapter 10, verse 21 to 29. The Lord then said to Moses, "Raise your hand towards the sky, and a darkness, thick enough to be felt, will cover the land of Egypt." Moses raised his hand towards the sky, and there was total darkness throughout Egypt for 3 days. The Egyptians could not see each other, and no one left their house during that time. But the Israelites had light where they were living. The king called Moses and said, "You may go and worship the Lord. Even your women and children may go with you, but your sheep, goats, and cattle must stay here." Moses answered, "Then you would have to provide us with animals to sacrifice and burnt offerings to offer the Lord our God. No, we will take our animals with us. Not one will be left behind. We ourselves must select the animals with which to worship the Lord our God, and until we get there, we will not know what animals to sacrifice to him." The Lord made the king stubborn, and he would not let them go. He said to Moses, "Get out of my sight. Don't let me ever see you again. On the day I do, you will die." "You are right," Moses said. "You will never see me again." This is the word of the Lord. When we lived in Cameroon, we didn't know that the electricity supply would be so bad. So the electric would go off sometimes for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and we just weren't prepared. We didn't even get candles in the house or these special torches that can be plugged in during the day and then you can use them and they have a battery in them. We didn't have any of that. So the first few weeks, well, the first week at least, we were suddenly cooking or suddenly about to go and have a wash, and then suddenly everything would go dark because the electric had gone off. And sometimes it was a little bit embarrassing because, you'd just be about to make a cup of tea, a sacred and religious act indeed. You'd be about to pour the hot water into the cup, and everything would go off, and you couldn't see, even if it was a dark time and the moon was not up, couldn't even see what you were doing. And sometimes you try and make tea with your feet, which isn't actually a health advisory, not a good idea. But anyway, it was so unpredictable, the electricity supply, and sometimes we would have even 3 weeks, nothing. Very quickly, we got more candles than the local Anglican church where I grew up, and we got lots of torches, and we got everything, and we got used to it. But we also got used to moving with the pace of the sun. So we would get up earlier, and we'd go to bed earlier, and we'd balance our days and our activities according to the daylight. And indeed, some countries, indeed Tanzania, if you're in Tanzania, 1 o'clock is 7 o'clock, and 2 o'clock is 8 o'clock, and 3 o'clock is 9 o'clock. So if you have an appointment in Tanzania, be very careful to know which o'clock you're dealing with, because you can get very early or very late. But anyway, many cultures, and particularly the Egyptian culture, at that time, the sun, the place of the sun, the movement of the sun was very important. And indeed, it had a religious significance. They believed the sun was like a god, and that all that we see around us, all the created world, they believed it was created by something from the sun, something coming out of the sun. And indeed, Pharaoh was the son of the sun. Let me say it in Italian. He was the figlio of the sun. The sun was Pharaoh's father. So that was what they believed, that Pharaoh was able to influence the movements of the sun to guarantee that the sun would follow its normal pattern and that life would proceed as normal, because they understood, as we understand today, that the sun is very, very important. Even not just for getting a suntan, which seems to elude me, but for everything that we do, we need the sun. And the Egyptians understood this, and Pharaoh, through prayers, through religious acts, ensured that the sun would continue its pattern. And they believed that Pharaoh was some kind of god who could influence the almighty sun god. That's why this miracle, or this divine act that we read in this chapter, the end of chapter 10, when Moses puts his hand to the sky and everything goes dark. God is saying to Pharaoh, I am God. You, Pharaoh, are not God, and you don't have any power over anything. The mighty God that we serve, the God that called Moses, is displaying his power to Pharaoh. Pharaoh is not the son of the sun. He hasn't got any powers at all, only those that have been given to him by God. And the mighty God whom we serve, the Lord Jesus, the mighty God, stops all the light for the Egyptians. You might say, oh, it was an eclipse. Well, if it was an eclipse, why did the Israelites have light in their homes? You could say they had those special torches that I should have had when I got to Cameroon. No, they didn't have those then. The Israelites had light in their homes, but the Egyptians, everything was so dark with a heavy, thick darkness. If you've ever had a power cut in the night and you were trying to do something, you find yourself walking like this, putting your hands out to see where you're going. Indeed, in this text, in the Hebrew, it says that it will be so dark that they'll have to walk with their hands. The darkness will be heavy. The darkness will be thick. This is a spiritual and a physical darkness that descends on Pharaoh, because Pharaoh refuses to obey the Lord. Even when Egypt is ruined. Remember the plague of the hailstones. The economy of Egypt is in ruins. And even now, his country in disaster. Pharaoh says, you can go, Moses, but you can't take your animals. He's clutching at straws, but his pride is so strong, so enormous, that it blinds him to the ruin he faces. What does this passage say to us today? What does it mean for us today? Well, there's something very clear here. We serve a mighty God, the utmost high God. In Ghana, there's a song, a very beautiful song. You are the most high Jehovah, you are the most high God. You are the most high Jehovah, you are the most high God. All other gods, they are the works of men. You are the most high God. There is none like you. All other gods, they are the works of men. You are the most high God. There is none like you. God is saying to Pharaoh, you think you have power over the sun? You think you have power over these Hebrews? You don't have power to do anything. And the darkness over the man who is supposed to control the sun proves that Pharaoh is powerless in the face of our mighty God. Moses also has no influence now. Moses, through his political diplomacy, can do nothing. There is no solution now. Pharaoh has totally closed the door to negotiations. He says to Moses, don't come back here. If you come back here, you'll be dead. It's a stalemate. It's a stalemate that only God, the Most High God, can fix. What does it mean for us? Well, what stalemates do we face? What problems do we face? What difficulties do we have in our lives that, humanly speaking, are impossible? Sometimes we think we've got a boss or a family member or, I don't know, somebody in our lives who thinks they dictate everything that's going on. Somebody who bullies us, or maybe we're at work and there's a problem and we can't see a solution. Maybe in our countries, maybe in our own countries, there's a political problem, like Cameroon. Cameroon is at war. The English-speaking part and the French-speaking part are just fighting. It's happened for 3 years. There doesn't seem to be any solution. Humanly speaking, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Don't trust in human beings. Don't trust in other gods. Trust in Jesus. Whatever you are facing, whatever problems that you have, call to Jesus. Jesus is the supreme God. Jesus can do anything. You think you've got a problem? Ask Jesus to help you. Do you have a problem at work? Do you have a boss who's a nightmare? Pray. That boss doesn't have any power in the end. Only God does. Do you have a problem in your families? Do you have a problem with a relationship or a member of the family who doesn't listen, who you can't seem to get through to, and you're just tearing your hair out to try and help them? God can help. Jesus can help. Pray. Trust in God. Don't trust in your abilities. Don't trust in politicians. Don't trust in human flesh. Trust in Jesus. Whatever problem you are facing, whatever difficulty that you come across, God is supreme. There is no other God like Jesus. Jesus can be trusted. You can find help. You can find peace in Jesus Christ. Don't think it is hopeless. Don't think the problems that you face are insurmountable. Don't let the darkness cloud your minds. Don't let the darkness of depression beat you. Don't let the darkness, the fear, the overwhelming sensation of the problem overcome you. Ask Jesus to let you see him. Whatever you are facing, ask Jesus to open your eyes to see his blazing glory and power, that he is superintending himself over every affair in your life. And if you could only see his glory, if you could only see him in that situation, you would have peace and strength to overcome whatever you face. It's true, some things seem to go on for a long time. The Hebrews, for so long, suffered under the yoke of slavery. But God solved it. Moses didn't solve it. It wasn't Moses' gifts or abilities. It was God. It wasn't the Son God. It was Jesus Christ. Let's today get a new vision of who we serve. Let's today get a new impression, a new understanding of the glory and power of our God. Our God is mighty, our God is powerful, and our God can be trusted when human beings let us down. Let's use our time to get closer, to open our eyes to the splendor and power and love of our God, Jesus Christ. Amen.